Good morning, everyone. This is Ashley Janae, love and dating and relationship coach and feminine lifestyle strategist and all the things. So it's been a while since I've done one of these while I'm driving videos, but I find that, I don't know, it just flows better. I feel like I am able to gather my thoughts better while I'm driving, and I tend to have a lot of like epiphanies and realizations and downloads while I'm driving. So this morning I'm taking about a 45-minute drive, so I figured this would be a good time to record some thoughts I have about the movie Titanic. So, of course, Titanic is not a new movie, so me doing kind of an analysis on some of the characters and some of the messaging that I've noticed in the movie, it's not like there's going to be a lot of other people doing those types of videos about this movie right now because Titanic's over 20 years old. But my son has had a recent interest in, the movie and the actual Titanic and, what happened with it. So I found myself watching it a few times recently and watching it with new eyes and a different perspective. A lot of us look at Titanic as a love story, and one where, Jack and Rose were soulmates and their time together was cut short, and they met by happenstance and they come from two different worlds, but it was just this destined romance. But when I watched the movie recently, I found myself having a different perspective. I actually saw Rose and her relationship with her fiance in the movie named Cal. I was looking at that relationship, and I saw a couple of things that, as someone who teaches women feminine energy, as someone who strives to embody that on a daily basis, I'm able to recognize when a woman is doing things that are working against her, or that are not feminine, or even problematic or antagonistic, or just flat out disrespectful. And I saw a lot of that from Rose, and I actually saw it before I ever saw any negative or demeaning or inappropriate behavior from her fiance. So that was really interesting to me. There's a couple of scenes early in the movie where they're having like lunch or brunch, and Rose is making her contempt and her dislike of Cal very apparent. Now, of course, keeping in mind that this is a period piece. So this took place, in the movie, it's taking place in like 1912. So during that time, there was, I'm sure, way more arranged marriage, especially among the higher social classes. Now, I actually think that this is still happening among, higher social classes or in cultures that are not westernized. We're more in favor of, picking our own mate and dating and things like that. But amongst the elite, they really try to marry within their social class, within their social circles and things like that. They don't really like to lean towards marrying outsiders or people that they don't know, people whom they haven't vetted, their family vetted whom they come from, their stock, what they have to offer. They tend to try to lean towards people who are within their circles. So Rose's marriage was obviously arranged. She obviously was not happy about it. And her mother says something in the film about the money being gone, and that Rose's father left them with a bunch of bad debts, and the only thing that was getting them by was their good name. So obviously Rose, it was on her shoulders to kind of save her family from being destitute and being poor and having to, live under the cloud of those bad debts from her father. And her way of trying to mitigate that was to marry Cal, marry a man with some money so that they could have money in the family again. But Rose didn't want to do this. And I believe in the film Rose is like between 18 and 20, so relatively young. But she had, a vision for how she wanted her life to be. She also talks about how, she has kind of a disdain for the whole elite way that they interact with each other, the behaviors, the social decorum, the cotillions and the folding your napkin in your lap and behaving a certain way, speaking a certain way, dressing a certain way. She was not a fan of any of that. So on the Titanic, she says in several different scenes that she's struggling with the fact that she feels like she has no voice. And she is fighting to be heard, fighting to be seen, screaming, not literally screaming, but she says she feels like she's screaming and no one can hear her. And the day that she meets Jack is the day she decided she had had enough. She was overwhelmed with this. She didn't want to do this. She was headed to America and set to marry Cal. And she decides, I'm going to jump off the back of this boat. So she jumps over the rail, or climbs over the rail. And that's when Jack sees her and, walks up to her, kind of talks her out of doing it. And, they spark their connection. So the first thing I want to talk about with that is Jack is in the role of the savior for her. So something that I want to say, and the reason why I'm saying this is because I feel like the messaging is important. The message that a lot of women will take away from watching movies like this, they will apply it to themselves, not really realizing that there's some programming behind these beliefs. There's some programming behind the subliminal message that's being conveyed to women. So, first of all, Rose felt like she didn't have a voice, but she did not need Jack to give her a voice. She did not need anyone to save her in order for her to decide what she ultimately did at the end of the movie, which was, I'm not going to marry Cal. I'm going to walk away from my family. I'm not going to be part of this anymore. I want a different life for myself. Jack, in a way, served as the catalyst that gave her permission to do that, but that was not necessary. And I want to make it clear, because sometimes we will create a struggle story so that we have permission to overcome something that we don't feel we have the bravery to do otherwise. So we will create adversity, we will create struggle, we will do these things to motivate ourselves or to give ourselves something to triumph over, when really we could just decide to do the thing. So Rose didn't need to get to the point of being about to jump off the back of the ship or feeling like she was out of her mind or wanting to end her life. She could have made the decision that she made anytime. Now, would she have endured ridicule? Would it have not gone over well? Would she might have been, restricted in her ability to make that decision freely? Of course. There's adversity, especially when you make unpopular decisions or you go against social norms or go against your family or people around you. But if she did it at the end of the movie, she could have done it anytime. It really was a matter of her making the decision to walk away. Now, of course, the confusion of her being rescued from the water and them not knowing if she survived or not helped, but she still, and I don't want to tie into or pump up the belief that you need something like that in order to walk away from your life. If that's what you want to do, or to take a different path, you don't need that. Of course, it makes it a little easier because you can slip away and not be as noticed, but it still requires a lot of bravery. That just kind of gave her a little bit of an easier way to do it without having to face her family. But she still had to make the decision to do it. She still had to be brave enough to go out on her own and forge her own path, make her own life with nothing, no money, no family, nothing like that. So the bulk of the bravery was on her. And, she ultimately made the decision to do that. And it was without Jack, because obviously Jack didn't survive at the end of the movie. So that's the first thing I want to point out, is that Rose did not need a savior. But Jack was in the position of being her savior. And she even says at the end of the movie, Jack saved me in every way that a person can be saved. But really, she ultimately had to save herself. But I want to also get into how when we are in emotional states that are really fragile, or when we are feeling desperate as women, we do not make the best decisions. So her love affair and rendezvous with Jack was one of those decisions that she made from a fragile emotional state. She was so frantic and so hopeless, she was about to jump off the back of a boat. The next day, after Jack saves her, she finds herself going to seek him out and talk with him more. She continually seeks him out, getting to know him. Meanwhile, she has a fiance. She's on this boat with her fiance and her mother, and at best, what she's doing is highly disrespectful. Can you imagine being on a cruise ship or taking a voyage with your fiance, and your fiance meets someone on the boat, and every time you go looking for them or don't know where they are with this person? There's nothing about that that's okay. Even if Rose doesn't want to marry Cal and doesn't like him and has her reasons for feeling that way, it's still not okay for her to be entertaining another man. And she has moments where she realizes this, but she can't help herself. Or she chooses not to help herself. She chooses to indulge and seek Jack out, because he represents and offers the exact opposite of what Cal represents and offers. Now let's look at Jack. Jack is a drifter. Jack says he got on the ship because he won his ticket in a poker game minutes before the Titanic was leaving the port in the UK. And he gets on the boat with a friend. He has no home. So he has no home base. He has nothing but the possessions that he brought on the ship with him. So he lives this kind of carefree, wild lifestyle. And there's something about that that's attractive to Rose, because she's lived a way more structured lifestyle. She's lived a life of expectations, and you do this, you don't do that. These are the people that we associate with. It's way more structured and restrictive. But she's also lived a much higher quality in terms of the luxury and the riches that she's been afforded. Jack has had to kind of make his own way, whereas Rose's way has been paved for her even before she was born. So Rose is drawn to the opposite of what she's used to, and that which she feels like she doesn't enjoy or doesn't want to live anymore, which is that, higher status, first class passenger type of lifestyle. So Jack looks like an attractive alternative to Cal. However, if you really look at it, and this is why making decisions from that desperate mindset is so important that you don't do that, is Jack really had nothing to offer Rose but a good time. He showed her a good time. They had some laughs. They danced. He was charming, like a lot of men are that don't have much to offer. He was able to work a room, and, when he went to dinner with her and all of her people, he, made a toast and gave like a little motivational speech. So he was doing all the right things. But Rose had only known him a couple of days before the Titanic, ended up hitting the iceberg and sinking. So she really didn't know him. She felt like she knew him because that's what she kind of talked herself into, that I can sense, I can tell, we have this connection. And all of that's great. Connection is very important. Chemistry is important, but you cannot base a life and an entire relationship on that. So the fact that Jack had nothing to offer her is important because that is the role of the man or the masculine in the relationship, is to be a provider. So Jack could not provide anything tangible to Rose. He didn't even have stability. She said she was going to get off the boat with him and go where? And do what? And a man that is actually concerned about the well-being of a woman would not want her to be sleeping under bridges or kind of living that drifter lifestyle with him. He would want to see her safe and secure. He knows that it's different for him to be roaming about the world as a man, being a free spirit, than it is for a woman. And especially if he's a man with a woman who's accompanying him, he not only has to think about where he's going to get his next meal or where lay his head at, he has to think about where she's going to eat and lay her head and how she's going to take care of herself. And she's used to a higher standard of living as well. So as much as she thinks it's going to be fun, she has no idea what it's really like to live a life like that. But caught up in the dreaminess of it all, she thinks, okay, I'm going to go, get off the boat with Jack. And Jack is going along with it because she's, a beautiful woman. She's fun. She has a great personality from what he can see. But again, they don't really know each other. Now, I want to touch on Cal a little bit because there's a scene where Cal shows Rose the Heart of the Ocean necklace for the first time. And he tells her that there's nothing he wouldn't give her. There's nothing he wouldn't do for her if only she would not deny him. So that's touching on how Rose has been so resistant, how her heart has been closed toward him. He even says, won't you open your heart to me? I really get the feeling that Cal really loved Rose, that he wanted to do right by her. Now, Rose says throughout a couple of scenes in the movie how she feels like he's trying to keep her caged. There are some women who feel like the protection and the covering of the masculine is caging them because they can't do what they want to do. But sometimes, ladies, that logic of the masculine and that protection is actually there to save us. It is there because they can see and sense things that we cannot see or sense. They have the ability to be logical about certain things that we sometimes cannot because we are emotional beings. We're very tied into our emotions. Not that we can't be logical, but there is just certain giftings that the masculine and the feminine possess. And one of the giftings that the masculine has when he is centered in his masculinity is that logic and that leadership and that decision making. So I'm sure some of the things that Cal wanted Rose to do or not do was because he was looking at the bigger picture and also looking at who they were and how they were living. Rose was trying to go a different direction. So they're naturally going to bump heads because she wants to do what she wants to do. And I also believe Cal is an older man. He's not 18, 19, 20 like Rose is. So he also likely has some wisdom that she doesn't have. She's also going against her mother. So she's in a very rebellious state at this time where she wants to do what she wants to do. So she rebels against Cal. She won't open her heart to him. And what makes me believe that Cal really loves Rose is, despite her blatant disrespect for him, he still looks out for her. He doesn't wash his hands of her like, a lot of men would in those situations. He continues to seek her out. He has like his bodyguard, guy continually going and looking for her. And, he even goes so far as to get Jack locked up so that he can get Jack away from Rose. Because he's like, what's going on here? We're not about to have this. This is a street rat. This is a guy from the third class who, was all over my woman. And is coming to the first class deck looking for her, and he's like, I'm not having this. I'm not about to allow this. So his way is, I have money, I have influence, I'm going to take care of it. So he gets Jack arrested to try to separate Jack and Rose, but Rose continually goes and seeks Jack out. Now, meanwhile, the ship is now sinking, and instead of focusing on getting to a lifeboat like most of the first class passengers would have been, like Rose's mother was, and like Cal would have been if he wasn't chasing after Rose, Rose is chasing after Jack, trying to save Jack. So now she has made it her mission to try to reconnect with Jack at all costs. So much so that she nearly loses her life. I want to point out that when you are in pursuit of a man who is not showing up for you, not right for you, not aligned with you, it will cost you. Rose did not have to be on the ship when it went down. Rose was actually on a lifeboat at one point and jumped off, but she had various opportunities to get to a lifeboat and get off early. She did not have to end up enduring the trauma and the whole experience of going down with the ship, being in the water, nearly freezing to death. She didn't have to go through that. But that was a decision she made because she wanted to be with Jack, and that was Jack's fate. So be careful who you tie yourself to, because your fate will be tied to their fate if you are walking together as one. If you attach yourself to them, their debts, their issues, their drama, all of that ends up touching you, even if that's not who you are. Rose was a first class passenger that could have been on the boat, like I said, and she ended up enduring the fate of a lot of the third class passengers simply because she was connecting herself to one. Okay, Cal paid for her to have a seat on the boat. He continually sought her out, even after she'd been running around with Jack, spit in his face, the whole 9 yards. He was still trying to look out for her and make sure that she got off the boat safe. Now, again, if he didn't care about her, he could have just let it ride. He'd have been like, you know what? Forget you. You run off with him. I'm going to do me. I'll find a different wife, get off the boat and go on about his life. But that's not what he did. He ended up doing everything he could to try to ensure Rose's safety and survival. And of course, Jack was concerned as well, but Jack had her in the struggle with him. Jack brought Rose down to his level. And even if that wasn't his intention, because he had nothing to offer her, because he was in the struggle, because of the type of life he lived, that's all he could give was a struggle experience. And because Rose was so enamored with him, and because she was so enamored with the thought of a life opposite of the one she'd been living, that's what she endured. And it was rough, and it was challenging, and like I said, life-threatening. So that's something to keep in mind. Are you really thoroughly vetting the men you're choosing? Or are you choosing them based on fun and excitement and the thrill of the moment? Are you thinking about the big picture? Do you want to live the kind of life that they're living? Because if you attach yourself to them, that is what will happen. One or the other, you will either affect them or they will affect you. And it's more likely when it's a man who's leading you that he will affect you, because men do not typically want to be led by women. They usually resist that. They want to be the leaders. They want to set the tone. They want to establish how things are going to go. And the woman submits to that and gets on board with his vision or whatever program he's running. So instead of the life that she was living, the first class passenger, rich, elite type of life, Rose is now in third class, about to drown. So she ends up, obviously, if you've seen the movie, she ends up surviving. Jack does not. And she goes on and creates her own life, and, you know, does her own thing. But like I said, I want to point out that it didn't have to take all of that. And at the end of the movie, I find it interesting that even though Rose has remarried, Rose has found a new husband and had children and grandchildren. And she's, you know, obviously retelling this story as an older woman. The person she sees, I believe at the end of the movie, that final scene where you see the Titanic again, and you see all the passengers and people who were on that voyage with her, and then Jack is at the top of the staircase waiting for her. It's interesting to me that it's Jack who was there, because to me that's almost putting him in the position of, oh, that was her true love. And I find that disrespectful to the man that Rose married and had children and built a life with. It's almost like he came second. And again, let's be realistic. Was she really in love with a man she had known for 2 days? Was it really, like, as opposed to the man who she probably spent decades with and had children and a family with? When I think the message of that scene, or what they're trying to convey in that scene, is, oh, like Rose, when she gets to heaven, that's who she sees. She sees all the people from the Titanic, and then she sees Jack. And I'm like, so that's what they want you to believe is, oh, you know, these star-crossed lovers, and, you know, this excitement, this butterflies in your stomach, this I just can't get you out of my mind, that is true love. It conquers all. It's more enduring than anything. Jack is the ultimate love of Rose's life, even though she only knew him for a couple of days. And rather than seeing anybody who she actually had like familial ties with, she saw Jack. And Jack is who she reunited with in heaven. And, you know, it makes for great entertainment. It makes for a great story. But the problem with this is when we watch movies like this, it programs us to think like that. It makes us think way more in the way of emotions than it does being practical. It makes us feel like, oh, a man who doesn't have anything is okay as long as I'm really into him, and as long as we have chemistry, as long as we connect, as long as it's fun, as long as, you know, I feel like what we have is special. And again, a lasting connection, a family, that solid foundation that you need to go the distance and have something healthy, is not built on chemistry and fun and butterflies alone. Those things are nice to have, but they are not the foundation. You really have to look at, do you have shared values? What experiences do you have? What vision do you both have for the future? I mean, of course, in the movie, we don't really even get into the stuff that makes a functional relationship, because they knew each other for such a short time. You know, they really didn't have an opportunity to get to know a lot about each other. They had some cool conversations, and I know I can say, back in the days when I was dating, I've had conversations with people where, you know, we talked heavy for a couple of days or for a week, and it felt like we were really vibing. But in reality, that's nothing. You are barely scratching the surface. And like Rose, a lot of women will start fantasizing and thinking, you know, I think I've met the one. I think I've met, you know, the guy that's for me. And they've known him less than a week, less than a month. They don't really know anything about him other than what he said and how they feel interacting with him. And they are ready to jump off the cliff, jump out the window, put their whole life on the line, the legacy that they will end up being part of, their fate, their money, everything that they own that is precious to them, that has been theirs, they're willing to put up for this man because of the thrill of the connection. And that right there is the emotional decision making that I'm talking about, that the masculine energy counteracts, but that a lot of women resist, because we want to go with what feels good. We want to go with the flow. The feminine is like water. We just want to flow. And the masculine is, if I had to give an example, it would be like the rocks in the water. So the rocks, when you place rocks in certain places, it directs the water in different directions. So the water is able to flow freely, but if you want to direct it where to go so that it goes a certain place, so that it doesn't flood things, so that, it follows a certain path, you put rocks, that hard structure, that direction, that represents like masculine energy. So we work really well together, but being too much feminine driven and not allowing that masculine structure, that logic in, it can actually harm you, because you make decisions that seem and feel good in the moment, but ultimately you look back once the smoke clears, once it's no longer new and exciting and life has settled in and you really get to know this person, you realize, I really jumped the gun. Or, this is hard because now I've committed myself. I've had children with him. We're married. I've given up my job. I've left my family. I've did A, B, and C. I've forsaken my friends. And now I'm with this guy that seemed really great in the beginning, but I really don't know him like that. And now I'm finding out as we go through the day-to-day stuff in life that we have conflicting beliefs, we have conflicting goals, conflicting ways of handling things. Our communication style, our conflict resolution style, our beliefs about what's most important and how to prioritize things differs. And those things matter. They matter a lot. It also matters if he's able to provide, because let's face it, it's a very common topic right now, women wanting that high value man who can be a provider so they don't have to work. And I honestly believe there was a reason why it was structured that way back in the day when women did not work outside of the home, because that is a full-time job. Any woman who has children or has a spouse and they have to tend to the house and they also work full-time, they will tell you it's like 2 full-time jobs. And it makes for burnout, it makes for stress, it makes for us feeling overwhelmed. It even creates disease in the body, being under such stress constantly. A lot of women are overweight. They don't have the time and the energy to take care of themselves because they're juggling too much. And all of that is a result of who you decide to partner with, or if you decide to partner at all. I personally believe we are built to be partnered, that is what we're created for. Our highest calling, aside from being children of the divine and, divine expressions of God and God's love, is for us to be a helpmeet, to partner with the masculine, to be complementary to him, and to execute whatever the vision or the mission is that God has given us to walk out on this earth. But it's not meant for us to do it alone. It's not meant for us to raise families by ourselves, to bear the burden of paying bills, taking care of a house, raising children, working 2 full-time jobs, struggling financially. Like, none of that is any of our destiny. But if that's what you choose, if those are decisions you make, then that is a reality that you can choose to experience. That's a path you can choose to walk, but it's your choice. It's not that life did it to you. It's a choice you make. And for women who say, well, I want to be partnered, I want to be in a relationship, how much do you want that? Are you making it a priority? And is that reflected in your decisions? Is it reflected in what you spend time consuming? Are you in therapy? Are you working on yourself? Are you working with a coach? Are you working with a matchmaker? If you're not able to find the type of men that you want just out and about in the world, are you investing any money, time, and effort in achieving this? And a lot of women can say no. They're going about that goal of finding a partner very passively. And to me, any goal that you're passively pursuing, you're not really pursuing at all. It's not a priority, because when it's a priority for you to buy a house, you're not passive about setting aside the down payment money or getting your credit together or looking for a house or hiring a real estate agent or gathering your paperwork. or whatever it is that you need to do, you're not passive about that. When you want to go to school, you are not passive about selecting a school, filling out the application, paying the application fees, doing whatever the requirements are to get admitted, going to the classes, doing the homework, and working your way through the program to get that degree. Same thing with a job. You're writing your resume, you're going to interviews, you're applying for jobs. None of that is passive. So why do we think that, just throwing ourselves on a dating site is good enough? That's all you have to do, and just let the men come to you. And if you don't like who's coming, you just throw them back in the pond, and then ultimately say, oh, there's pee in the pond, so this is for the birds. All the men in my city are no good. There's nobody good here, and whatever, I'm just going to be fine and content by myself. Meanwhile, you are making your life harder. And it's harder in a different way, because I personally believe trying to do everything yourself and not having that masculine energy in your life, having that protection, that provision, being cherished, having a man be devoted to you and shower you with that love, I believe it enhances your life. I believe it makes a woman an even greater version of herself. And when you don't have it, I believe it can affect us in negative ways. Like, you start overcompensating by focusing too much on your kids, focusing too much on your job, your dog, your career, going back to school, girlfriends, spending money, your vices, overindulging in food, and ultimately becoming bitter, sometimes depressed, sometimes having anxiety and stress and overwhelm. A lot of these are results of women not having that balance, where they don't have what all of us need, what we're all wired to want, which is partnership and love, and not just familial love, not just friend love, but also romantic love. And it's okay to want that. It's okay to recognize that that's an area of your life that you are still unfulfilled in, and that, hey, I've put a lot of time and energy into other areas of my life. Maybe I need to shift and make this a priority if I want to see some change in this area. It matters. And it matters the experience you ultimately have, and it's also going to affect your future children if you have children. The experience they have, what they get to see and observe growing up about relationships, how they get to experience you as their mom. Do they experience you as a woman who is well taken care of and loved, and they see an example of a healthy relationship growing up? Or do they see mama doing everything, mama struggling, mama always worn out and tired and struggling to make ends meet, or mama just having the world on her shoulders? What message does that teach your girls, and what message does that teach your boys about what a woman's role is and what they're supposed to do? And how does that shape their expectations of relationships when they get older? Are they more likely, your girls, are they more likely to be single themselves, single mothers, or are they more likely to seek out a husband? If they look at you as a role model and you didn't have one, they might not feel like it's that important. They may lean more toward the being independent, doing it on my own, and create a life where they literally are curating an existence where they are alone, as opposed to creating an existence for themselves that has room for a man, that actually allows a man to come in and have space in their life and be important and have priority and have a role that he would play for them that is appreciated. I've been a single mom at different points in my life when my son was younger, and I want to say for the first 10 years, my son is how old is he? He's almost 16. So for nearly the first 10 years of my son's life, I was a single mom, and I barely dated. I didn't really have any solid relationships, even though I had, some situationships. And I wanted my son to experience a family with me, even though it was a beautiful time that he and I had where it was just us. I recognized that at some point it became imbalanced, and I didn't want him to become my refuge, my companion, my everything, because that's not fair pressure to put on your children. They are beings who came to this earth to have their own experience, not to be their mom's emotional crutch, not to keep you company, not to make their life smaller so that you could be comfortable. They came to live out their own destiny. And you want your children to feel like they can spread their wings and go and live their life without worrying about, well, what about mama? Because mama's by herself. That's not what you want for your kids. But some people, they do have children to keep them company. They have children to have someone to love them. And that's an unfair burden to put on the children. And some of us as adults, we've experienced that. We've had mothers who did that to us. And those mothers, when you grow up, they still cross boundaries. They don't respect the fact that you're married or that you may have a spouse or have your own life, and they overstep. They try to make you do what they want you to do and make you feel guilty if you do anything opposite that, because they still want to feel like you owe me because I'm your mama, and I want you to do what's going to make me happy and make me a priority in your life. When in reality, they should be having their own life. They should be enjoying the fact that their kids are out of the house and they're doing them. But no, they're in your Kool-Aid because they don't have enough going on for themselves. But yeah, I think I touched on everything that I wanted to in this video. I don't want to make it too long because I know I've already gone off on a couple of tangents, but it is important who you choose. It's important to have a really well-rounded perspective in how you're choosing. It's important that as a woman you be in a good place mentally when you're making that choice, that you're not choosing from a place of lack, desperation, mental instability, trying to run from something, trying to fill a void. No, you want to be in a place where you are generally happy, although you recognize that you want a partner. You're not unhappy that you don't have a partner, but it's something that you desire. Just like I said, you desire a better job, or you desire to buy a home, or whatever the case may be. You desire something, so you're going to pursue it, and that's that. But being mentally stable is important. Being in a good place yourself so that you're not making rash decisions or decisions that don't make sense just because you're trying to have something is important. And really vetting and looking at the man you're dealing with, looking at him holistically, not just how he makes you feel or how he looks or whatever it is that's getting you going initially, but look at the big picture. And don't continue to indulge if you already see the red flags, if they are blazing and the signs are there that you and this person are not aligned. Don't even do it to yourself, because then you make it harder on yourself to walk away and make a wise choice, because you continue to spend time with and bond with this person that you're not aligned with. You know, normally a woman who is of a higher social status getting with a man who is of a lower social status, like Jack and Rose, would result in her, if she maintains living that way, feeling like she has to take care of him because he lives a completely different way. If Jack wanted to be a rich man, he could be a rich man. He was an artist, and he lived, like I said, a drifting type of lifestyle. Unless that's what Rose wanted to live truly, and not just wants to in her mind, but actually knows what it takes, knows what it feels like, and wants that, she might end up defaulting to, you know what, I like to have a stable place to live. I like to have money. I like to be able to buy my needs and, you know, eat good food and travel and, you know, whatever else. I don't want to rough it out here and stay in hostels and backpack through wherever. You know, if she doesn't want to do that, she may find herself trying to pull Jack into her lifestyle, and that usually doesn't work well, because either the man will resist, or if he doesn't resist, it ends up putting a lot of pressure on the woman, and she feels like the masculine partner because she's having to lead and create that structure and give him that lifestyle, and he's not really taking the reins and running with it because he doesn't know how. He knows nothing of that lifestyle. That's not what he's used to. It's not his world. So those things matter. Really quick, I do have a masterclass that is available called Vet Like a Goddess, and it really goes deep into how you vet the things that you need to be asking yourself and asking a man to determine if you all are a potential match. And it encourages you to push past that initial attraction, that initial, I'm drawn in by his looks or his charm or whatever it is that initially attracted you, and helps you tap into your logical thinking brain to make a wise decision so that you don't waste time or get caught up on somebody who it's not going to pan out in your favor, or it's going to result in struggle love or a toxic relationship, or he's really a narcissist, but he was super attractive and charming in the beginning. There's ways to avoid that. You don't have to continue to be victims of circumstances like that, but you have to know what to say, what to do, what questions to ask, and how to approach situations like that so that you can make better decisions. You do have that power. I also have another masterclass. It's called Clarity, and that class is about how to navigate situationships. So a relationship where you're not sure if you should stay or go, and the man's not stepping up, he's not claiming you, you've been involved for a while, you really want it to be him. You want to know, is this relationship savable? Is it worth it? Or you're in a relationship, but he's not sensitive to your needs. He's not motivated or devoted to you to please you or to make sure that your needs are met, that you're happy. He's maybe more selfish, more focused on, whatever he's doing. He may have toxic behaviors and tendencies and things like that. So this class helps you navigate that situation to finally make a decision so that you can either choose to stay in peace or go in peace. And then I have an upcoming masterclass. I believe today is September 28th, and I will be doing this masterclass on October 1st, and it's called Speak. And this class is all about feminine communication. So I will be teaching the art of feminine communication, how you navigate conflicts with men, how you communicate your needs without having to beg or manipulate or twist his arm or consistently ask and nag and get on his nerves, get on your own nerves, how you can feel empowered around getting your needs met, how you can just navigate life as a feminine woman and know how to communicate with men in the way that's most effective to get what you need and to get them to respond in a positive way that's not defensive and that's not going to minimize your needs or ignore them completely. So that class is going to be recorded, not live. I will record it and then I will send out the link to the class on October 2nd. You'll have lifetime access. You actually have lifetime access to all of the classes. And it's going to be a great time. I think it's going to be really useful for a lot of women. And you can reach out to me to purchase any one of those classes. They are each $55. However, if you buy 2 or more classes, I will offer you a bundled price. Just reach out to me for that information. Really quick, I have a private Facebook group that is free called The Ladies Lounge, and you can find that at www.lovemeetslogic.com, and just request to join. It's a ladies only group, and I share lots of wisdom, tips. I answer questions. I drop in and do some exclusive trainings in that group. It's all free. And I also offer special discounts and offers to my group members that I don't offer to the general public. So if you'd like to join, please just send a request on Facebook. It is only on Facebook, so you do have to have a Facebook account. If you don't use Facebook, you can just make an account that you don't have to connect to anybody. Just put in the description when you answer the questions that you created this account just, to join the group, and that, you saw my video on YouTube or wherever. And I will go ahead and approve you. And it's active. It's a group that I enjoy being in, and I'm in it often. And lastly, I have a group coaching program. It's a 3-month program. It's very intense. It's focused on personal transformation to basically get you to find the one, to find the man that is going to sweep you off your feet and claim you and treat you right, finally. And this is for like your savvy, successful type woman who has your life together for the most part, but your love life is still not quite where you want it to be. You still haven't found a good, decent man that you're interested in, who's interested in you on the same level, and you want to finally, step it up. You have tried everything. You feel like, you may be losing hope, and have almost considered that, maybe love just isn't for you, maybe marriage just isn't for you, and it's not going to work out. That does not have to be the case. This group is going to be very intense. I'm focusing on emotional, physical, and spiritual transformation. I have experts, I have resources, I have one-on-one support, messenger support, free trainings, at least 2 free trainings per month in the group. It's a 3-month program. I guarantee you that you will be a different woman at the end of the program. And I'm really excited to run that. I'm offering a special for the first 10 ladies that enroll in that program to do so at a discounted price in exchange for their review of the program. So basically like a case study or just some feedback about how they feel the program went, what they got out of it. And I will use that for marketing purposes, but I can make it anonymous as well if you don't want, your name and face out there. So you can reach out to me here on YouTube, or you can email me at mindlovebyashley.com. That's mindlovebyashley@gmail.com. And I will reply to you. Let me know what you're interested in. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave a comment, subscribe to my channel. Let me know that this was helpful. If you have any thoughts or anything that you want to unpack or share, or you have any comments about what I've discussed here today, please do comment. I will reply back. I'd love to interact with you and connect with you all. And thank you so much for watching this video. If you've made it this far, I appreciate it. I'm gonna sign off now, but it's been really great speaking with you all. Thanks for accompanying me on my drive, and we'll talk soon. Take care. Bye for now.